Senate will come to order for February 4th, 2021. Madam Chief Clerk, roll call.
Senate roll call for Thursday, February 4th, 2021. Anderson.
Here.
Yay!
Baldwin.
Here.
Beitman.
Here.
Boner.
Here.
Bouchard.
Here.
Case.
Present.
Cooper.
Here.
Driscoll.
Excused.
Ellis.
Present.
French.
Here.
Furphy.
Here.
Guru.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Hutchings.
Here.
James.
Here.
Kinski.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Cost.
Present.
Landon.
Here.
McCune.
Here.
Nethercott.
Here.
Pappas.
Here.
Perkins.
Perkins here.
Rothfuss.
Here.
Salazar.
Here.
Schuler.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Steinmetz.
Here.
Wasserberger.
Here.
President Dockstader.
Here.
Senator Driscoll.
Driscoll here. My internet's unstable, so I'm sorry if I'm missing a little.
No problem. 30 present.
Thank you. Prayer by former Senator Bernadine Kraft, and then following her, Senator Case, would you get us started on the pledge?
Thank you so very much for inviting me to be with you. It's wonderful to be back where I was so very happy for a very long time, and it's wonderful to see familiar faces and new faces. And I would ask that you might pray with me. Holy Father, we pray this day for these, your servants in the Wyoming Senate. We pray that their lives may never be without your light, nor their wills without your strength, nor their hearts without the warmth of your love. We pray for their well-being. We pray for their health. We pray their recovery when in sickness or illness or injury or fear or worry. We pray and we thank you that we are in this place where the glorious revelation of yourself is all around us, where the desert bursts with song from wind and birds, and where the abundance of animals roaming freely reminds us of our own freedom. But at night, the limitless stars in our limitless sky push back the boundaries of our lives, and we dream of heaven and your wonder. Hold these your servants, Father, as they seek to create a kingdom worthy of you, worthy of us on this earth. Hold them, enfold them, uphold them in your loving care. Give them eyes to see clearly, ears to discern truth, minds to understand, voices to speak with courage and conviction, and hearts filled with compassion as they move forward, united in their journey of service. And may the peace of God, which passes all understanding, come upon them and remain with them now and throughout all the days of their lives. We pray this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Case.
Mr. President, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Senator Case. Thank you, Senator Kraft. Stay with us for just a moment, Senator Kraft, if you would, please. Okay, Senator Kraft, can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right. Bring us up to date on your life since you've left the Senate floor and what you're doing these days for those watching and for members of the Senate.
Well, first of all, like I said, I'm just so thrilled to see so many familiar, dear friends. That's what I remember best about my days in the Senate were the friendships and the collegiality there, and it's wonderful to see so many of you. It's fun to see new faces too. Since I left the Senate, I discovered there is a life after Senate. I still continue to be the executive director for Sweetwater BOCES. So I'm still the BOCES director, but I am now also the priest at Holy Communion Episcopal Church in Rock Springs. And I have a mission church, which is Oregon Trail Memorial Church in Eden Valley. I've become extremely involved with the diocese. I sit on the foundation board for the Episcopal Diocese of Wyoming, and I'm also a dean of the Red Desert Deanery. So I think that's kind of fun to be the dean of the desert. I like that. And am doing well, but not terribly well during this pandemic because it's kind of hard to not be able to get about and see everyone. But it's wonderful to see your faces, and hopefully at some point in time, I'm still currently the chairperson of Wyoming Humanities, and we had of course planned to come down and visit you, but we won't be doing that this session. But hopefully next time it will be safe for us to move about and around the country. I just got my second shot yesterday, so yay! Hopefully we're going to all be back together again, because I do miss you. And the one thing when I first came to the legislature, they told me, they said, once a senator, always a senator. And I think that's true. And thank you for being there, and thank you for your great service. And I want to do a special shout out to the staff. They're just incredibly amazing. And I personally, there might be a little prejudice, but I think the Senate staff is the absolute best ever. And I'm thrilled to see them too. And so thank you for including me, and best of luck. We're all watching and we're all cheering you on in this tough session that you have. Thank you for being there for us.
Thank you for that report summary. We wish you all the best, and especially with those responsibilities as Dean of the Desert. How about that?
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Senator Case.
privilege of the floor.
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish Senator Barnard was here, and he would make sure that our good friend Senator Kraft would reclaim her crown and lead us in the Senate, because for all out there that know that there was a time that there were 29 male members of the Senate and Senator Kraft, and I assure you,
right.
she held her own. God bless you, Senator.
She did.
Thank you so much.
All the best to you.
They gave me my tiara. I had my very own tiara. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the prayer.
Thank you.
Okay, members of the Senate, we have a privilege of the floor. Is that correct, Senator Cooper?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Privilege of the floor, please.
Please, would you come forward for this, because we want to share this with those who are out watching too across the state. And I'm going to have you come up to the left. We'll open this door here, and I'm going to turn my computer. And you're going to have to speak really loud into this computer for this introduction. Step right up there. We got you. Okay.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I'm very proud today to introduce my grandson, Zane Cooper. A little brief history on him. He's the 10th Street High School class of 2020 valedictorian. He's attending the University of Wyoming currently on a trustee scholarship. His course of study is molecular biology. I can't even say it exactly, with a minor also in economics. His plans for the future include medical school, utilizing the WWAMI program. And I'm very proud of him that he's just recently acquired permission to participate in a, you're going to have to tell them, Zane, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Speaker Adam.
A research lab position in the neurosciences department.
So he will be a lab assistant doing neurological studies of Alzheimer's. What else?
Epilepsy and autism spectrum disorder.
That's some difficult topics.
Pretty disciplined process. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce again my grandson, Zane Cooper. He's the future of Wyoming.
Zane, wish you all the best. Want to follow up on your grandfather's comments at all?
I think you about said it all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us in the Senate. Thank you, Senator Cooper.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, members of the Senate, can you hear me okay? I seem to have lost my headset, so we're going to unplug this and I'll just listen right here. Reading and correction, approval of the journal.
Mr. President,
Please, Senator Landon.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. President, but may I have privilege to the floor?
Please
Please.
do. Yes, all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to send a thank you out to the Senate Transportation Committee last night, who waited patiently for me to return. Yesterday, I had scheduled to go and get one of the vaccinations, tried to time it where I thought the majority floor leader would have us off the floor, and my timing wasn't very good. I think it's maybe the first time I've ever missed third reading votes, but so I wanted to apologize to you for that, Mr. President, but I did successfully get that first shot that's been talked about, so that's good. And you know, the other privilege of the floor, I wanted to send a thank you out to the Department of Public Health here in this county, and for that matter, for every county out across the state. They have been doing remarkable work this past year. Yesterday, the county health officers inoculated 374 people came through to receive shots yesterday. And that doesn't count the normal course of work that they do. The director told me yesterday that anytime there's an announcement related to the pandemic, that their telephones absolutely blow up. And so they have really had their hands full, and they handle it with great class. And I just wanted to thank them for their work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you, Senator Landon. Senator Perkins. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have privilege of the floor?
Please do.
Thank you. A couple of items. One is I had a few minutes this morning, so I tuned into the stream on the Corporations Committee and became ultimately confused when it was referred to as Senate Ag. And so I think, Mr. President, you may want to follow up on that with your majority floor leader, who's also the chairman there. I was confused for a minute. So anyway, you may just want to follow up there.
I think the
real reason I wanted was I just wanted to recognize that we had Senator Anderson back in our presence today. He's been, he had a pretty tough ski injury, and it's pretty remarkable for a man of his age to have a ski injury of that.
Senator
that
Anderson,
quality.
if Senator Anderson was on the floor now, he would say, "What do you mean by that?"
And I didn't make that up. That was what his wife called and talked to me about it. That was her comment. So I'll just pass that along, because if it was me, I would say of someone of our age to be on the slopes. But anyway, we're glad to see him back. He obviously is still in a little bit of discomfort, and we just wish him a continued speedy recovery. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Our Chairman of Ag, did you want to follow up on the misnaming of the corporations this morning?
I best not, Mr. President. I'll just keep it to myself.
All right. Thank you. Any other privileges of the floor?
President.
Mr. Floor Leader?
Wow, I can't believe that I actually have the former president watching my committee and ratting me out about one little misstatement about agriculture. You know, it's kind of nice when you can take a committee over and run the thing. My committee was completely fine when I called it the Ag Committee, and you know, it's a committee that can do about anything. So, I do have one more thing. We all need to sing happy birthday to a certain senator today. It is Senator Nethercott's birthday, and I'm sure she's very unhappy with me outing her. But
Senator Nethercott, I wonder how this is going to go over Zoom.
Mr. President, it's going to go very badly. So
Yeah,
Let's get her done.
I think everybody stand back from their mics a little bit and let's proceed with a happy birthday to Senator Nethercott, but no one take the solo role. Just everybody stand back a little bit, okay? All right, somebody kick us off. Senator Case, you're standing. Go ahead. You did the pledge. Kick us off on happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Senator
Nethercott.
Happy birthday
Birthday
to you. I think that went about as well as expected, Senator.
Certainly a memorable piece of history for Senator Nethercott, and I think it's recorded for the record. So there we have it.
Mr. President, it was the most beautiful birthday song ever and the very first today ever of a Zoom birthday. Thank you so very much, good senators. For the 5th birthday I get to celebrate with you, I couldn't wish to be anywhere else. I mean that sincerely, doing good work with you, my friends and colleagues, and advancing Wyoming for many more years to come, beyond 29.
Thank you, Senator. We wish you all the best. You don't get any time off today. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Vice President Hicks?
Yeah, Mr. President, privilege of the floor, please.
Please do.
There's been some members that have expressed a concern associated with many of the executive orders that are coming out, and a question has arisen as to what is the state doing and what are we doing with those? So what I'd like to do is just to share a discussion that we had with the executive branch is right now the executive branch is having their policy staff and some of the agencies review those executive orders, and then working with your leadership in the House and the Senate, trying to come up with a formulation, number one, to try to understand them. Number two, what are the ramifications to Wyoming? And then number three is as we continue to evaluate them, what would be an appropriate response from the state of Wyoming? So I would just tell you there is a lot of discussions going on along those lines. We know that one of the initial ones rolled out with the 120-day ban on any oil and gas or mining activities on federal land. But there's several others out there that have caught our attention from the state of Wyoming. So we are collectively looking at those with the executive branch, and hope to be able to provide more information along those lines in the near future. So I hope that resolves some of the questions that we've got along that line. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And following up, I know that they are tapping into their legal resources, both in their office with our former president and others. And if there's anything else anybody would like to add to that, if not, we will proceed. All right. Thank you, members of the Senate. Nice start to the day. Reading, correction, approval of the journal. Will the Chief Clerk please read the Journal Committee report?
Mr. President, your Journal Committee reports that the Journal of February 3rd, 2021 has been read and recommends it be approved. John Kolb, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any objections? They're being done. The report is adopted. Messages from the House.
Messages from the House. Third reading passed February 3rd, 2021. Mr. President, the following bills listed below passed the House on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 41, Tax Lien Enforcement Amendments, 59I, 1 excused. Senate File 42, out of state bank charter conversions. 59 aye, 1 excused. Senate File 63, Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund Reserve Account Distribution Timing. Ayes 59, 1 excused. Sincerely, Wendy Harding, House Chief Clerk. Messages from the House. Concurrence requested February 3rd, 2021. Mr. President, Senate File 43, Wyoming Energy Authority Amendments. The Senate file listed passed on third reading in an amended form as follows by the vote indicated. The vote was 58 aye, 1 no, 1 excused. Sincerely, Wendy Harding, House Chief Clerk. Committee of the Whole indefinitely postponed. Mr. President, February 3rd, 2021, the House adopted the Committee of the Whole report, failing the bill listed below by the vote indicated. House Bill 62, Suicide Prevention. Ayes 25, noes 34, excused 1. Sincerely, Wendy Harding, House Chief Clerk.
Thank you. Under unfinished business and concurrence, Senator Wasserberger, are you ready on message number 125 to Senate File 143? You're muted, sir.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Reading clerk, please read in the message.
Message number 125, concurrence requested. Mr. President, Senate File 43, Wyoming Energy Authority Amendments. The file listed above passed the House on third reading in an amended form as indicated. The vote was 58 aye, 1 no, 1 excused.
Senator Wasserberger.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. This is a case where I would move concurrence on message number 125, Senate File 43, Wyoming Energy Authority Amendments, and I would urge you to vote aye. This is a simple case where, if you remember, we combined two authorities a year or so ago to make the Wyoming Energy Authority, and that is your one-stop shop for energy. And this particular bill brings in soda ash and rare earth minerals as a part of the Wyoming Energy Authority. In the House, they amended the bill, and at line 3 on page 1, essentially they added specifying geothermal and pumped hydro energy projects as projects which may be supported by the authority. And then on page 2, line 1, they inserted another paragraph which essentially says, energy project means any project related to or involving a natural resource associated with energy or an associated natural resource, including specifically geothermal and pumped hydro energy projects. And so that, I think, Mr. President, we actually, I can't believe the House actually improved the bill, but they did. And so this is a much better bill down the road. I think it's a good idea. And so I would urge your favorable vote.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion. There being no discussion, the motion is that the Senate do concur on Senate File 143 and vote aye. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Senate File 43, roll call on the concurrence. Anderson?
Excused? No, he's connecting. Wait just a moment, please.
Anderson?
Let's come.
I'll come back to him.
Okay,
Mr.
please come
President.
back. Yes.
Baldwin?
Aye.
Aye. Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Boner?
Aye.
Aye. Bouchard?
Aye.
Aye. Case?
Aye.
Aye. Cooper?
Aye.
Aye. Driscoll?
Aye.
I. Ellis.
Aye.
I. French.
Aye.
I. Furphy.
Aye.
I. Guru.
Aye.
I. Hicks.
Aye.
I. Hutchings.
Aye.
I. James. James.
Aye.
I. Kinsky.
Excused.
Excused. Cole.
Aye.
I. Cost.
Aye.
I. Landon.
Aye.
I. McCune.
Aye.
I. Nethercott.
Aye.
I. Pappas.
Aye.
I. Perkins.
Aye.
I. Rothfuss.
Aye.
I. Salazar.
Aye.
I. Schuler.
Aye.
I. Scott.
Aye.
I. Steinmetz.
Aye.
I. Wasserberger.
Aye.
I. President Dockstetter.
Aye.
I. Anderson.
Aye.
I. Kinsky.
Excused. Proceed.
Excused.
Senator,
Kinsky.
thank you, Senator.
Kinsky, aye. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. Senate File 43, 30 aye.
Thank you. By your vote, you have concurred on Senate File 143.
Mr. President,
Please.
it is Senate File 43, please.
Oh, excuse me, Senate File 43 for the record. Reports from Okay, before you do that, let me just a couple little housekeeping, make sure everybody's muted, and then we've got a little ambient noise here in the chambers, and if we could have that go into a headset, that would help as well, please.
I apologize, Mr. President. My printer is rather noisy.
No, that's okay. I try to keep one ear on the computer and one ear on what's going on in the chamber, so go ahead.
All right. I believe you called for standing committee reports.
Please do. Standing committee reports.
Mr. President, your committee number 8, Transportation, to whom was referred Senate File 13, Abandoned Vehicles Towing Service Liens and Titles, respectfully report saying back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting ayes, Senators Furphy, Landon, McCune, Pappas, Senator Anderson excused. Signed, William Landon, Chairman. Mr. President, your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, to whom was referred Senate File 9, State Employee Moving Expenses, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Voting aye, Senators Furphy, Landon, McCune, Pappas, Senator Anderson excused. Signed, William Landon, Chairman. Mr. President, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom was referred Senate File 15, Temporary Licensing and Permitting Authority 2, respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators Boner, Case, Driscoll, Nethercott, and Scott. Signed, Senator Driscoll, Chairman. Mr. President, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom was referred Senate File 17, Governmental Publication Requirements, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Senators Case, Driscoll, Nethercott, and Scott. Voting aye, Senator Boner, no. Signed, Senator Driscoll, Chairman.
Thank you. Bills on third reading and final passage. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, do you have a consent list?
I do. Bills on third reading consent list. House Bill 15, Department of Transportation Communication Facilities. House Bill 18, Military Training Memorials. House Bill 25, Tribal Vehicle Registration Exemption Implementation. House Bill 27, Business Code Reversions. House Bill 30, Public Utility Assessment. House Bill 35, Theft Statute Amendment. House Bill 44, Omnibus Water Bill, Construction. House Bill 45, Changes to Water Right, Notice Requirements for Hearing. House Bill 53, Invasive Plant Species. House Bill 66, 2021, Large Project Funding. House Journal 001, Traumatic Brain Injury and Post-Traumatic Stress Treatments. That's your third reading consent list, Mr. President.
Thank you. Would anyone like any of these bills removed from the consent list?
Mr. President.
Senator Perkins.
Thank you. Mr. President, I would ask that House Bill 27, Business Code Revisions, be removed from the consent list. There is an amendment to that one.
Did you say House Bill 27? I'm not showing that on my list.
Yes, Mr. President, House Bill 27.
There it is. Okay. That has now been removed. House Bill 27 is removed. Further, anyone would like any of these bills removed from the consent list? Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the Senate? House Bill 15, House Bill 18, House Bill 25, House Bill 30, House Bill 35, House Bill 44, House Bill 45, House Bill 53, House Bill 66, and House Joint Resolution 1. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
On the consent list, Anderson,
Aye.
Baldwin,
Aye.
Beitman,
Aye.
Boner,
Aye.
Bouchard,
Aye.
Case,
Aye.
Cooper,
Aye.
Driscoll,
Aye.
Ellis,
Aye.
French,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Guru,
Aye.
Hicks,
Aye.
Hutchings, James,
Aye.
Kinski,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
Cost,
Aye.
Landon,
Aye.
McCune,
Aye.
Nethercott,
Aye.
Pappas, Aye. Perkins,
Aye.
Rothfuss,
Aye.
Salazar,
Aye.
Schuler,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Steinmetz,
Aye.
Wasserberger,
Sorry, aye.
thank you, President Dockstetter.
Aye.
On the consent list, 30 aye. House Bill 15, are there any changes? Closing vote.
Hold on. She's unmuting her mic.
Hutchings, aye to no. Hutchings, aye to no. House Bill 15, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 15, 29 aye, 1 no. House Bill 18, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 18, 30 aye. House Bill 25, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 25, 30 aye. House Bill 30, are there any changes?
James, I don't know.
Bouchard, I
James,
know.
James, I to know. Bouchard, I to know.
Salazar, I to know.
I'm sorry, repeat.
Repeat that,
please.
please.
Bateman, I to know.
Bateman, I to know.
McEwen, I to know.
McEwen, I to know.
French, I to know.
Salazar, I to know.
French, I to know. Salazar, I to know.
Cole, I to know.
Kolb, I to know. Steinmetz,
I to know.
I to know. Closing,
Dockstetter, no.
Dockstetter, I to know.
Hutchings, I to know.
Hutchings, I to know. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 30, 20 aye, 10 no. House Bill 35, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 35, 30 aye. House Bill 44, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 44, 30 aye. House Bill 45, are there any changes? Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 45, 30 aye. House Bill 53, are there any changes?
James, no.
James, no.
Bouchard, I to know.
Bouchard, no.
McEwen, I to know.
McEwen, no.
Nethercott, no.
Nethercott, no.
Cole, I to know.
Kolb, no.
Case, no.
Case, no.
Cooper, I don't know.
Cooper, no.
Schuler, I to know.
Schuler, no.
Perkins, no.
Perkins, no.
Baldwin, no.
Baldwin, no.
Bateman, no.
Bateman, no.
Dockstetter.
Salazar,
Dockstetter, no.
no.
Dockstetter, no. Salazar, no. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 53, 17 aye, 13 no. House Bill 66, are there any changes?
Bateman, no.
Bateman, no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 66, 29 aye, 1 no. House Joint Resolution number 1. Are there any changes?
James, no.
Baldwin, no.
James, no.
Baldwin,
Baldwin, no.
Driscoll, no.
Driscoll, no.
Scott, no.
Scott, no.
Perkins, no.
Perkins, no.
Cooper, no.
Cooper, no. Cost, no.
Case, no.
Case, no.
Kinsky, no.
Pinsky, no.
Rothfuss, no.
No. Rothfuss, no.
No.
Nethercott, no.
Nethercott, no.
Anderson, no.
Anderson, no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Joint Resolution 1, 18 aye, 12 no. That completes the consent list, Mr. President.
Thank you. Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 15, House Bill 18, House Bill 25, House Bill 30, House Bill 35, House Bill 44, House Bill 45, House Bill 53, House Bill 66, and House Joint Resolution 1 have passed the Senate. Bills on third reading. House Bill 9, third reading of the House bill.
House Bill 9, short-time compensation program, an act relating to labor and employment, sponsored by Minerals.
There is an amendment. Reading clerk, read in the amendment.
House Bill number 9, third reading amendment number 1, 2 engrossed, page 1, line 9.
Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 9 and ask for your favorable consideration. Fellow senators, this is an amendment that comes out of trying to keep track of this good little program that we're standing up in this bill. We weren't able to put a sunset date on the program itself because it would have put us out of compliance with the federal guidelines. And so we're just requiring a report to the Joint Appropriations Committee in November, and we will sunset that report in 2026 so that we don't have unneeded reports. But as we all change positions throughout our careers in the legislature, we just thought it might be appropriate to keep track of this little program and make sure that it's working the way we want it to. And so I would ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. President.
On the amendment, are there any questions or discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. Oh,
Mr.
Senator
President?
Oh, sorry. Senator Wasserberger and then Senator Perkins in that order, please. And then Senator Costa, I think you had a hand up.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I would see this as a friendly amendment. I don't think it hurts the bill any. It doesn't necessarily have a sunset on it. And so we would be able to move forward and so on and in favor of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
This time you were muted, Mr. President.
Yeah, I knew it happened.
Mr. President, on and in favor of the amendment. You know, this program, as you've looked at it, I did take some of the suggestions of some of the people who were speaking in support of the program in previous debates, and did go out and inquire, and did find the significant people who I trust in the business community are strongly in favor of this program. But as with any program, particularly ones that indicate that this will save money and assist workforce, it's important that we keep track of it and see if it really does. And so I appreciate and applaud the good senator from the Senate Appropriations Committee for this amendment to keep track of this so that we can do that comparison and see if it indeed saves the money that it is supposed to save. And so a great amendment. I would recommend the body to support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Cost, you had a hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good bill, and I think we ought to consider it for the benefit of a lot of our businesses and all. I just wanted to make sure that I was heard as saying I support it and think that it has value to our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. We are on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 9. No further comments, questions? Ready for the question on the amendment. All in favor, say aye with your hand. Hold it for the chief clerk. Thank you. Those opposed? Chief clerk?
None opposed, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're back on the bill. Are you ready for the question on the bill? House Bill 9, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Aye.
Baldwin,
Aye.
aye. Beitman,
Aye.
aye. Boner,
Excused? Oh, there. Oh, Senator Bonner,
Bonner?
you're here. You're muted, sir.
Aye.
thank you. Aye. Bouchard,
Aye.
aye. Case,
Aye.
aye. Cooper,
Aye.
aye. Driscoll,
Aye.
aye. Ellis,
Aye.
aye. French,
Aye.
aye. Furphy,
Aye.
aye. Guru,
Aye.
aye. Hicks,
Aye.
aye. Hutchings,
Aye.
aye. James,
Aye.
aye. Kinski,
Aye.
aye. Cole,
Aye.
aye. Cost,
Aye.
aye. Landon,
Aye.
aye. McEwen,
Aye.
aye. Nethercott,
Aye.
aye. Pappas,
Aye.
aye. Perkins,
Aye.
aye. Rothfuss,
Aye.
aye. Salazar,
Aye.
aye. Schuler,
Aye.
aye. Scott,
No.
no. Steinmetz,
Aye.
aye. Wasserberger,
Aye.
aye. President Dockstader,
Aye.
aye. Closing vote. Closing.
Kolb, aye to nay.
Kolb, aye to no. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. House Bill 9, 28 aye, 2 no.
House Bill 9, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 9 has passed the Senate. House Bill 13, third reading of the House bill. There is an amendment.
House Bill 13, Alcoholic Beverage Regulation, an act relating to the regulation of alcoholic and malt beverages sponsored by corporations. House Bill 13, third reading amendment number 1, to engross copy, page 13, line 18.
Senator Kolb, will you be taking this amendment?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, remember to move it in, please.
I move that House Bill Amendment 0013 S3001 be considered favorably with this body. And should I speak on it now, Mr. Chairman?
Please do. And just for a quick record, House Amendment number 1 to House Bill 13 has been moved on third reading. Go ahead, Senator Cole.
Thank you, good senators. I wish to talk about this good little amendment. What it does reverts the language back to the current state statutes as per page 28, lines 13, 14, as it relates to current malt beverage permits. The proposed change just goes too far, too fast. Currently, they're not allowed to issue permits in that 5-mile band around cities, 0. This goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour. It could be any amount. I think it changes the current way that it's been handled for decades about the 5-mile zone around cities. And as it relates to counties, as I was a prior, probably you could say I still am a county commissioner, maybe you never lose that. The experience that I gained in dealing with issuing liquor licenses in this area were that they were limited, and they were limited for a very good reason. There's going to be, I think, an unforeseen consequence of what's called packing, where people will just set up beer businesses, I suppose, if you want to call them that, retail beer businesses around the city, and that's where people will congregate. It changes the dynamics between the cities licensing and the county's malt beverage licensing. Currently, 3 in the 5-mile zone for full retail licenses. This just massively changes the dynamic. I'm not opposed with the change. I'm opposed to this level of change so quickly. I think it needs to be looked at more carefully. Like I say, I do agree with the change, but not this massive change this quickly. I don't think this change is ready for prime time. And I think we need to have more due consideration for it. So I am amenable to a change, but not this massive of a change. I'll stand for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions on the amendment? Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against the amendment, just point out that I've heard nothing but positive feedback about this bill and this particular element of it from my local entities. And, what I heard is, this might actually increase business. And if that's the case, and that's a reason to vote against the amendment and for the bill. If we're going to have more businesses spring up, that shows to me that there's we're artificially holding back some of those businesses with the way that it is right now. So if we want to be pro-business, I say we remove this unnecessary restraint right now and do what's going to be best for businesses, which we need all that we can at this point. So for those reasons, due to the fact that I've heard nothing but positive things from my local government, to include my county commissioners, and the fact that it sounds like we have an artificial restraint on business, I urge the body to resist this amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion on the amendment? Senator Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against the amendment, everybody came to the table. I didn't hear any complaints about having a free market work right. So I think it's good for the counties to be open and fair. It's a fair business solution. It's good for business. I don't think we need to have any more restrictions. We need to have a free market. The prohibition's over. We should move in the direction to open up the free market, make sure we have a strong message in this state that we are going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We are on the amendment. Senator Kinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On and against the amendment, Mr. Chairman, rather than this being an acceleration from 0 to 100, this simply continues the work that's gone on over the last several sessions in terms of paring back this artificial 5-mile zone that's around cities and that divides cities and counties. I'd remind folks of In the 2013 session, there was HB 85, which dealt with municipal jurisdiction, extraterritorial authority, which began to pare back this 5 mile, some people call it the zone of death. It has a variety of names. And then most recently in 2018, HB 14, again on municipal jurisdiction to try and get rid of these artificial barriers, city, county, town barriers. And what I heard from my county commissioners is somehow in the course of all that, they missed this last remnant buried deep in the bowels of the liquor code. And this bill does the right thing in terms of excising that old language and conforming it with the way the statutes are elsewhere, which is to get rid of these kind of artificial barriers on and against the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We are on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 13. Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Voted up, voted down, but I appreciate the new senator for having the courage to bring an amendment based on his experience as a commissioner and recognizing those unique concerns that each of our different communities faces. So for a point of clarity, just to kind of understand what the bill does or doesn't do, what we're really doing is on page 23, reinserting that stricken language found on lines 13 and 14. That's what the good senator is trying to accomplish with the amendment. And so the good senator mentioned the concept of packing, and I support the removal of that ridiculous donut and extraterritorial jurisdiction and the challenges that our municipalities and counties face with that, and free market all the way. But there's a uniqueness with packaged liquor stores, and what the good senator mentioned was this packing piece. And I come from a county where alcoholism is a significant issue, and so is drunk driving. And I know that when the bars close at 2 o'clock, the next movement is to the next location where a liquor store is open in the next jurisdiction. And so you get this ring of liquor establishments associated with where you can consume it thereafter. And I think this is what the good senator is trying to prevent, is that packing of those establishments, perhaps with the safety interests in mind for those communities. So I appreciate the sponsor bringing the amendment for this discussion amongst the body. Free market, America, cheers to that.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Landon and Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really appreciate the debate. I think you get some sense of what the Corporations Committee spent some time on this past interim. And I too really appreciate the senator from Sweetwater County. But I would ask that you resist the amendment. I think it's time that we well, it's a continuance of our effort to extract ourselves from some of these laws that have been around for quite a while. And I, for one, trust our local county commissions to do what's right. I always like to stand up and say we believe in local control, except when we don't. In this case, I trust the county commission, and I think that's an artificial barrier that we can get rid of. Thank you.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking on and against the amendment, I understand where the good senator from the Green River is headed with this, but what applies to the bigger cities doesn't apply to our small municipalities. A 5 mile buffer on the bigger cities, those cities have already grown out through that buffer. But in virtually all of my smaller communities, a 5 mile buffer puts them way out in the hills, and there's no opportunity for further development once you get past a quarter to a half a mile away from town. So in the interest of, and speaking for my county commissioners and municipalities, on and against the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President, for my first time. On and for the amendment, and I'm not sure that it's not the right approach. And we certainly have had a lot of debate and discussion on the transition between the county and the cities. or municipalities and what is and isn't appropriate regulation within that 5 mile region. We've passed a lot of legislation in recent years. The concern I have and why I'd urge the body to support is that it does vary, I think, from municipality to municipality. And this is a pretty blunt instrument where this is one piece of a rather comprehensive, multi-purpose piece of legislation that does a lot of different things. And I think which we can agree, most of which is good and positive. But it's not as if we're in a hurry on this. We're not in a hurry. It's okay. Things will work out if we maintain this for a little bit longer. And realistically, it would take about 2 minutes of work to redraft this little section as a different piece of legislation to return to the committee for our next session in what seems like a couple of minutes from now, to take public testimony specifically on this issue and to understand it better. Because I don't feel like we've debated this thoroughly or sufficiently. This is a third reading amendment that gets at the heart of a relatively important issue. The email that I've received says it's just fine to eliminate this provision if there is concern from stakeholders. And I don't know why we can't work this a little bit harder. Pass the amendment, contemplate it a little bit further. And if it is the right choice, then it's a short piece of legislation to run back through both chambers. If it needs to be more nuanced, Mr. President, then that's the outcome that could take place, because we are hearing circumstances like smaller communities. This may make a lot of sense. My community doesn't like legislation like this. There's a lot of concern about trying to coordinate planning between the edge of the municipality and the early part of the county for the considerations that we've heard about packing and other concepts. So from my municipality standpoint, we'd like this statute to remain. I know that others wouldn't, and it's perfectly reasonable, I think, that others wouldn't. But we're swinging the pendulum as an all or nothing approach, when I think as a legislature, we're capable of a lot more subtlety and thought. So I'd urge the body to adopt this amendment from the experience of the good new senator that did serve as a county commissioner and has firsthand knowledge of the potential concerns here. And let's just work it a little bit harder, bring it as a standalone bill.
Further discussion or questions on the amendment? Senator Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little bit inclined against the amendment, but still open for some additional persuasion. It's been a few years since I served as a county commissioner, but my experience in one of the larger communities in the state as a county commissioner was that we had a tremendous working relationship with our city council and our town councils in the local area, and I never found this to be really much of a problem. There were maybe a few disagreements we had within the 5 mile zone, but they were never about liquor and never about liquor establishments. They're mostly about maybe some zoning and some other things that happened in that. But so anyway, I'm still looking to understand why. This comes back to that same issue. We've had this in different contexts before, Mr. President, about this 5 mile zone and whether or not that gives one a leg up over another. Again, I think that my experience was that even with the bill as it is, without the amendment, it continues to require and actually may promote that cooperation that we want between those intergovernmental bodies and towns and counties. We want them to work together. And certainly the 5 mile zone around the cities resolves that pretty simply if they can agree. But anyway, I'm struggling to see the detriment of leaving the bill alone and rejecting the amendment. So if there's a little bit more specificity we could have, that may change my mind. But I am trying to understand the argument and the particular reasons. I did understand that, but I did understand the comments from our good friend from Laramie County, who's just a tremendous lawyer and has a former prosecutor and certainly has a wealth of experience in that regard. But I would hope that we would find our intergovernmental cooperation to reduce drunk driving and the very concerns that she alleviated. And if we're headed in this direction anyway, the sooner that they can work together, it might be the better off we'll all be. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll go to Senator Driscoll. Before I do that, though, just for a moment, Senator Kolb, hope you're making some notes along the way here. We'll come back to you eventually to respond. Senator Driscoll.
President, find myself in a strange place, being in a locked in step with the minority floor leader. I thought he made a fairly compelling argument. I think it's really interesting. I stand in favor of the amendment, and I do think that should it really be pertinent, it really should come back again and have another look. What we're really doing is creating concentric rings around cities, and none of them line up with each other. We have 1 mile buffer zones, we have 5 mile buffer zones. And I really do think it's probably time that the body look at consolidating it all together. Right now, I own ground on the edge of a town, and they've got a 1 mile zone that they can pretty well dictate what I do. And now we've got a 5 mile circle, which apparently has been there. But I think it's probably time to take a look in bill form about consolidating this so that we actually know. I do think when you create these circles, you do create the potential of conflict between the cities and the counties, because it's a rub between them. And we really ought to take a long look at being consistent and having all these areas lay the same. So I would encourage a yes vote on the amendment. And if you really want it to go the way it's going, or it looks like it's going, let's go ahead and bring another bill up and let's have an honest debate on both sides of it instead of third reading when we don't know. So thank you.
Further discussion on the amendment. We are on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 13. Further discussion? Further questions? Senator Kolb, would you like to respond?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll kind of try to get these in order. First, I'd like to talk about what the I guess law says, or what change or effect negatively may be. Well, I think anybody who stands to lose $250,000 in a license they've procured over the years for legislation coming out of this body, and there's an artifact out there that has to be dealt with. I mean, I asked the question, how would any person like to lose $250,000 on a license, which is the reality of what we're talking about when they get devalued. I don't disagree that we need to have a conversation about the distance. Maybe 1 mile is appropriate, but there is a loss, and I think I could categorize it as a taking. And for my years of being a county commissioner, I realized sometimes we were caught in the middle with old precedent that is now being asked to be changed. And what do we do with the folks that currently have an existing license, and do we not care about that? I'm not saying the decision should be solely based on that, but that's a consideration. I think that everybody can understand when it's it's your money and your business. And for the record, I don't own a convenience store. I don't own a liquor license, but I think there's consideration that needs to be duly considered. I would then also want to talk about HB 85, which was the removing of the extraterritorial jurisdiction. I was one of the people down here as a commissioner testifying in committee about that. And I can tell you that has nothing to do with this. I was adamantly in support of removing that jurisdiction because it was about zoning and restricting the rights of the folks in the county that couldn't vote for anybody within the city. It wasn't about alcohol, it was about zoning. And I still stand in full support of counties having primacy over those areas with zoning and planning, and look forward to further conversations about that. I just think that it's just too much. I'm in favor of this major part of this change when it comes to the proposed legislation. But this one section I think needs to be carved out, looked at, and kicked around a bit. And I think that'll serve everyone better if we better understood the unforeseen consequences, which that's what I'm concerned about. And I thank you for your time and indulging me to explain this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Question on the amendment. Shall third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 13 pass? Those in favor, raise their hand. Aye. Madam Chief Clerk, you got that?
9, Mr. President.
Those opposed?
Seventeen.
Third reading amendment number 1 of House Bill 13 has failed. We're back on the bill. You ready for the question? Question being called. All those in favor, or House Bill.
Roll call.
Excuse me, yes. Go ahead. House Bill 13 having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, call the roll.
House Bill 13, Anderson.
Aye.
Aye. Baldwin.
Aye.
Aye. Beitman.
Aye.
Aye. Boner.
Aye.
Aye. Bouchard.
Aye.
Aye. Case.
Conflict.
Conflict. Cooper.
Aye.
Aye. Driscoll.
Conflict.
Conflict. Ellis.
Aye.
Aye. French.
Aye.
Aye. Murphy.
Aye.
Aye. Guru.
Aye.
Aye. Hicks.
Aye.
Aye. Hutchings. Aye. James.
Aye.
Aye. Kinsky.
Aye.
Aye. Cole.
Aye.
Aye. Cost.
Aye.
Aye. Landon.
Aye.
Aye. McEwen.
Aye.
Nethercott.
Aye.
Aye. Pappas.
Aye.
Aye. Perkins.
Aye.
Aye. Rothfuss.
Aye.
Aye. Salazar.
Aye.
Aye. Schuler.
Aye.
Aye. Scott.
Aye.
Aye. Steinmetz.
Aye.
Aye. Wasserberger.
Aye.
Aye. And President Doggstetter.
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 13, 28 aye, 2 conflict.
House Bill 13, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 13 has passed the Senate. The next bill is House Bill 27. House Bill 27, third reading of the House bill.
House Bill 27, Business Code Revisions, an act relating to businesses sponsored by corporations.
There is an amendment. Chief Clerk, would you read in the amendment or read the, yes, read the
Certainly.
amendment.
House Bill 27, third reading amendment number 1, delete the Perkins.
Senator Perkins.
No, Mr. President, don't delete the Perkins, please. Anyway, Mr. President, I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 27 and ask the body to vote aye. What we've got here is the same issue that we had yesterday, but working with the good senator from downtown Orange Junction, and also more particularly with had several phone calls with the Secretary of State's office, particularly the chief deputy and one of the staff members who was quite knowledgeable in looking at some of these things. A former prosecutor working in that office now. Ultimately, we came upon this, and this was a solution I think resolves some of the issues and puts it in a form that the Secretary of State's office is very comfortable in dealing with. It does exactly what we talked about yesterday, that when you have an office who hasn't, or a business entity who doesn't have a registered office or doesn't have a registered agent upon whom service or process can be delivered, it allows them to do this electronically. So it allows them to either do it by mail or electronically. In talking with their office, they would implement this simply by, if you do online, if anybody who's created an entity online, there's a number of boxes that you check. you would check that as part of the application. In addition, when you file by paper, there'll be an additional box that you'll check, or representation you have to make to them in creating your entity where you agree to this type of service. Keep in mind that this only happens when the entity has, this only will occur when the entity has failed to keep a registered agent or registered office, or otherwise can't be found to be served in the event of a lawsuit or other process to be served upon them. So I think it's a great solution. It puts it in a different area of the statute, which I think was looking where it goes. It's appropriate and I think resolves the problem, and it makes the Secretary of State happy. So I think it's a win-win for everyone on this one. So I'd ask for your favorable consideration, and would be happy to listen to any questions or concerns that any members might have with respect to this amendment.
Discussion and questions on the amendment. Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to express my support of the good work our appropriations chair has done. I think this ties up the bill nicely. It alleviates all the concerns that we had, and urge the body to support the amendment.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment. Questions for the sponsor? Appears to be none. We are on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 27. Question on the amendment. Please raise your hand for aye. Okay, Madam Chief Clerk.
You want to call for the noes, Mr.
And
President?
please, those opposed, raise your hand.
It
Madam
was
Chief Clerk.
unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 27 has passed. We are back on the bill. Further discussion on House Bill 27. House Bill 27, you're ready for the question. House Bill 27 having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
House Bill 27, third reading. Anderson.
Aye.
Aye. Baldwin.
Aye.
Aye. Weitman.
Aye.
Aye. Boner.
Aye.
Aye. Bouchard.
Aye.
Aye. Case.
Aye.
Aye. Cooper.
Aye.
Aye. Driscoll.
Aye.
Aye. Ellis.
Aye.
Aye. French.
Aye.
Aye. Furphy.
Aye.
Aye. Guru.
Aye.
Aye. Hicks.
Aye.
Aye. Hutchings.
Aye.
Aye. James.
Aye.
Aye. Kinsky.
Aye.
Aye. Cole.
Aye.
Aye. Cost.
Aye.
Aye. Landon.
Aye.
Aye. McCune.
Aye.
Aye. Nethercott.
Aye.
Aye. Pappas.
Aye.
Aye. Perkins.
Aye.
Aye. Rothfuss.
Aye.
Aye. Salazar.
Aye.
Aye. Schuler.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Scott.
No.
No. Steinmetz.
Aye.
Aye. Wasserberger.
Aye.
Aye. President Dockstader.
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing vote to close. House Bill 27, 29 aye, 1 no.
House Bill 27, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elected to the Senate, House Bill 27 has passed the Senate. Signing of enrolled acts. We are at that order of business, signing enrolled acts. Enrolled Act number 1 to Senate File 63. Madam Chief Clerk.
Senate Enrolled Act number 1 being original Senate File 63, an act relating or Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund Reserve Account distribution timing, an act relating to public funds.
I'm about to sign House or Senate Enrolled Act number 1, same being original to Senate File 63. So signed. Senate Enrolled Act number 2 to Senate File 42. Madam Chief Clerk.
Senate Enrolled Act number 2 being original Senate File 42, out-of-state bank charter conversions, an act relating to banks and banking.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 2 to same being original Senate File 42, 42, yes. Right. Senate Enrolled Act number 3 to Senate File 41. Madam Chief Clerk.
Senate Enrolled Act number 3 being original Senate File 41, tax lien enforcement amendments, an act relating to ad valorem taxation.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 3 to Senate File 41. So signed. House Enrolled Act number 1 to House Bill number 3. Madam Chief Clerk.
House Enrolled Act number 1 being original House Bill number 3, an act relating to mental health professions licensing and certification.
I'm about to sign House Enrolled Act number 1 to House Bill 3. And so signed. House Enrolled Act number 2 to House Bill number 6. Madam Chief Clerk.
House Enrolled Act number 2 being original House Bill 6, an act relating to trust companies.
I'm about to sign House Bill 2, same being original House Bill 6. Signed. House Enrolled Act number 3 to House Bill 34. Madam Chief Clerk.
House Enrolled Act number 3 being original House Bill 34, an act relating to the Youthful Offender Program.
About to sign House Bill. I'm about to sign House Enrolled Act number 3, same being original House Bill 34. I have so signed. House Enrolled Act number 4 to House Bill 42, original House Bill 42. Chief Clerk.
House Enrolled Act number 4 being original House Bill number 42, an act relating to courts.
About to sign House Bill, I'm about to sign House Enrolled Act number 4, same being original House Bill 42. So signed. House Enrolled Act number 5 to House Bill 48. Madam Chief Clerk.
House Enrolled Act number 5 being original House Bill 48, An act relating to community juvenile services.
About to sign House Enrolled Act number 5, the same being original House Bill 48. I have so signed. That concludes our enrolled acts. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk.
Mr. President.
Senator Scott.
Mr. President, may I have the privilege of the floor briefly?
Please do.
Mr. President, I just wanted to say, particularly for the benefit of the new members, that the business we just went through of signing enrolled acts proved to be quite important. It is a constitutional requirement, but it serves a very useful purpose. And if you don't have it, you run the risk of getting sloppy and developing the practice of passing the bill first and writing portions of it second. And I understand our brethren at the federal level have on occasion been guilty of that sin. This effectively prevents that, and the work that our staff does enrolling the acts and double checking them can catch any mistakes that have been made, so that we're sure that what we're sending forward to the governor to go into law is what we actually passed. So it may seem to be just a formality, but it is important. And I can recall one time when it didn't get done properly and we had a special session in consequence. And that's embarrassing. So just wanted to mention, Mr. President, that what you've just been doing, although it seems very pro forma, has considerable importance.
Senator, appreciate that background. Thank you. Senator Driscoll.
Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'm going to talk a little and then ask some advice. It's not a normal way to do it, but being we're on Zoom. First,
let's counsel together. Go ahead.
First, a huge thank you to all of your members. Folks, the House is still slaving away over there. We're through our business. We've done it effectively, done it with great debate, done a great job, and it shows what happens when everybody minds their P's and Q's and pays attention to business. Really a particular big thank you to the new members for catching on. You guys are quick studies, went well. And a massive thank you to our staff. Chief Clerk has really held our hands, but all the staff all the way around has made what's undoubtedly been a tough session, one that I think we got by and can be pretty proud of. We've got some legislation out, got some things done. With that being said, we're done with our business. What is left is conference committees, and I'm asking probably in particular Senator Scott, Senator Perkins, and Senator Case to weigh in. Really what we have is conference committees tomorrow, good methodology for what time to meet. I guess I'm asking you for advice. Do we set some predetermined times so we can have some people stop along the road to do it? Or what's normal process at the end of the session? I've been through a lot of it. Sitting for hours in the chamber on a day you could be going home might be too much. Senator Scott?
Senator Scott, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, two things on the specifics. I would suggest that particularly if the House might do some things that would cause us to either concur or not concur, or to have conference committees as a result of the work that they're still doing, you might want to come back briefly late afternoon, maybe vote on concurrence a time or two, maybe not, but maybe appoint some conference committees. That's something you really have to talk to your counterpart in the House about, work the schedule out. I would suggest tomorrow you come in at a fixed time and then plan to have, if we don't get all the work done in the morning, plan to have an afternoon session after the Bensmore conference committees, but come in at a relatively normal time so that people have time before the session to work out the conference committees. And remember, there's likely to be a little paperwork that the LSO has to do before we're ready to vote on a concurrence. And then Mr. President, when we're all done with this, I have another comment I want to make.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Senator Case as well on this. He's put a lot of time on this floor.
Thank you very much. Not as long as the good senator from Natrona County, but Mr. President, thank you. I think that's a very good suggestion. If we had, say, maybe a target to come in at, say, 10 o'clock tomorrow and maybe touch base later today at some fixed time to be established by the majority floor leader, that would allow people to be places where they could come in at those particular times. Mr. President, you probably have challenges to find people to do conference committees and things. I'm not sure how many they are. Get a look at that workload. You guys would be able to figure that out and build in enough time, get those people working. The truth is, it's not exactly like the ending of the regular session. It's not our last day of session. We're going to be back in March. So there are things that can be undone that we finish in March. So with all that, I do support the suggestions from Senator Scott.
Thank you, both of you senators. Any other discussion from our chairman? Senator Perkins.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just following up on that, I think Senator Scott's right. I think if I was you, I think I would convene again this afternoon at some point just to touch base. I would expect they may not finish their third reading until late in the afternoon, but there'll be significant amounts of third reading that'll be done. We'll be able to analyze, and you may be able to appoint committees. If we don't meet this afternoon and you don't appoint committees, that'll basically move everything to tomorrow. And I think that to the extent we can get committees appointed, and then they can schedule their meetings, maybe some this afternoon or early this evening, and certainly through the morning tomorrow, we'd have a much better chance of wrapping up what business we could. And like if we just did it at a time, people can find a spot on the road where they know that I have cell service and they can participate in that regard. We don't need everybody here. We just need to know if you're assigning us, and then we need enough people here to have a quorum so you can make those assignments. So that would be my suggestion, and the rest of them are just the same as Senator Case and Senator Scott.
Good time this afternoon. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, that's good counsel. Where do you want to take us?
Mr. President,
Madam Chief Clerk.
if I may, I do have one message from the House to read in that came in while we were in third reading.
Please do.
And we could dispense with that. It's, Mr. President, your message number 127, concurrence passed. The House did concur on Senate amendments to the bill listed below by the vote indicated. House Bill number 8, Consumer Credit Amendments, 60I. Sincerely, Wendy Harding, House Chief Clerk.
Thank you. Senator Scott.
Mr. President, before we have a motion to recess or whatever motion the majority floor is going to make, I want to put in a request to the leadership for guidance. The printed schedule for the session has 3 days where we'll not be in session, but would have standing committee meetings just before the March session.
Correct.
And I want, is that still planned? Do we have some more bills we're going to introduce? Education Committee doesn't have any bills that I know of other than two we did lay back deliberately. We might well hear those in such a thing, but we also might well have an informal discussion in that very public forum and where we could get testimony on issues like recalibration and maybe charter schools as well. And would that be an appropriate use of that time?
Senator Scott, as I understand it, you have two that you could work on, and then you have two very in-depth topics that would no doubt take you a lot of time.
Mr. President.
Senator Case.
And Mr. President, with regard to those committee meetings to be held in the mini interim, you would need to have, we'd have to have all those bills read in, and you would have to assign those to those committees. And if we leave without you assigning them, you can't give them to us. So That's a job we got to get done.
This afternoon.
Okay.
Okay. That's why, Mr. Floor Leader, don't be too quick to rush us off. We got to fill the pipe for the mini interim. All right, further discussion? All right. With that, Mr. Floor Leader?
Mr. President, I move the Senate stand in recess until 3 p.m.
Good motion.
Announcements? Senator Boner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Joint Agriculture Committee will meet on Wednesday, February 10th at various places throughout the state at the Powell Wheat and Pest Office, also here in the Capitol Building, meeting room 5 in the extension, as well as online to receive our statutorily required forestry briefing. That's going to be 1 o'clock on the 10th. I just thought I'd make the Senate aware of that.
Thank you. Further announcements? Further announcements? Oh, Senator Wassenberger, you have a big meeting coming up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee, committee number 9, Senate members will meet voluntarily on Friday, February 5th at 8 a.m. to hear a presentation from the Petroleum Association of Wyoming on the impact of the federal ban of drilling on federal land. And the governor will be there to discuss his energy policy. All senators are invited, and it's at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Important meeting. Appreciate you hosting that through Minerals. Thank you. Senator Ellis.
Oh, Mr. President, I was wondering if we could get a link sent to us about just meeting details so we can just easily add that to our calendars. I'd hate to.
We'll have those wonderful people listed across the bottom of the screen. Send us that link. All right. Anything else? Further discussions? Big thanks for the counsel from Senator Scott and Senator Case. As you can see, it's always good to have that institutional knowledge to guide us through these times. It's a little different these days. So with that, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say no. Senate stands recessed until 3 p.m., 3 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your lunch.